For the first time in a good long while, we've finally got Doctor Who 3 years in a row without any breaks. And when it comes to Russell T Davies coming back, that was one thing that was really appealing to me. And my God, has he knocked that out of the park with his first returning episode for Series 15. Or Season 2, depending on where you come from or where you stand. Personally, I'm going to keep calling it by the series numbers progressing. Just because Russell T Davies says that it's a brand new show does not mean that it is a brand new show. We've not been on a hiatus for 8 odd years. Okay? Well, with that out of the way, let's talk about The Robot Revolution, Russell T Davies' brand new opening story. And like most of his opening stories, bar, last series, I think that we have a very strong contender for one of his best here. I must say that it feels like that this series has really snuck up on me. When it came to being engaged with the hype around it, I did watch the trailers, I did see the sneak peeks and the episode titles being released. And I've also seen big YouTubers such as unwilling advertising the series, which was very unexpected, though, I mean, why would you pay Doctor Who YouTubers to advertise to an audience that's already going to watch this series, you know? Could have got Mr. TARDIS on something like that, could have got Who Culture on that, but business-wise that doesn't really make much sense. But to see unwilling, someone who has an audience of several million, based in the UK, and also from the same place as me, which is nice to see, to have that opened up to a bigger audience that's also around my age, so the target audience, it's really nice to see, and I hope that quite a few people have decided to tune in because of that. Though from the comment section of his video, a lot of it was, wow, Doctor Who's really reached a new low by going to YouTubers for sponsorships, which I can sort of see, but at the same time, YouTubers are, well, really the new celebrities. More young people will probably know who Mr. Beast is than know, say, Hugh Grant is, or even maybe Rowan Atkinson. These big names in the industry when it comes to acting that, well, are just getting beaten by YouTubers nowadays. Graham Norton, do you think kids know who that is? No, but they'll know who Mr. Beast is, they'll know who Dan TDM is. So I guess going towards these YouTubers, while has been a little bit controversial and not many people have been taking to it too well when it comes to the reaction, is definitely the way to go forward for Doctor Who. And if the BBC can afford it, then at the end of the day, why not do it and support YouTubers as well? Now, let's get on to the story itself, which, as I said earlier, right off the bat, I very much enjoyed it. I have to say this, when it comes to the feeling of the script and the overall plot itself, is a real return to form for Doctor Who. The last series, overall, it felt like Series 12, where it was just really tired. It didn't really have a direction that it was going in, and the ending, when it came to the plot threads all being tied up, didn't really do it for me. At the beginning here, what we've got is a perfect back-to-form Doctor Who story where it feels familiar, but it's still putting in elements of the new. Though not all those elements were fully done to their best extent, and I'll get into that a bit later. But from a first impression basis and a first viewing, of which I watched this barely half an hour ago, yes, it was an incredibly enjoyable experience. And when it comes to Belinda, our brand new companion, I already think that she's going to be better than Ruby Sunday, and in saying that just based off of one appearance, I do definitely have very high hopes for where her character is going to go, and hope then when it comes to the mystery of her kind of time paradox, and that she's an anomaly when it comes to time, at least that's what I'm getting from it. I hope that this is properly explored instead of just the reason that you're a time paradox is because you're a normal person. And it's just such an underwhelming ending. But I have a feeling when it comes to, at the end of the series, the Reality War, which I think I've checked the dates correctly, which will be coming out on the 24th of May 2025, which of course is the date that this whole story is based around, the idea that this specific day is an illusion in time. It's something that can't be accessed at the moment. It's locked off. It's time locked, seemingly. Some kind of anomaly is protecting it. Though he did seem to get there in the first place to go and help her get to the planet, and then obviously had to go back 6 months, but who knows what's going to happen in the Reality War. Also, an excellent title, The Reality War. I am expecting so much from this. I have very high hopes just from that title alone. But on to the actual story itself, The Robot Revolution. Of course, first impressions are this was fantastic. When it comes to the cold opening, I was absolutely enamoured with it instantly. Belinda is a nurse in the NHS, working absolutely tirelessly day and night to help people, and it's such a noble thing that Russell has put this into the show. to respect the nurses, to respect the doctors, to respect all the people that have helped us for the last 5 years and beyond, especially in the last 5 years since COVID. And for Russell to put that in as a nice little detail about her character, the doctor and the nurse, is just a nice little gesture. Until, of course, the doctor seems to probably kill everyone in the hospital when he turns out the power, and you just hear all of the beepers flatlining. Now, either that's because people are dying, or because since they haven't got any power anymore, God knows. But I'm going to assume that he then fixed the situation and made sure that everybody lives, Rose. Everybody lives. But we also have, of course, Mrs. Flood in the cold opening, trying to shirk off and make sure that she's not seen. Maybe she's the cause of this reality event, and I'm going to say it, she's the trickster. She's got to be the trickster. There's something about this where she's manipulating events. She had such plans, as what she said in the last series at the Empire of Death, and the only being that could put a stop to those plans in the moment was Sutekh, the god of death, the god of the pantheon, something that is seemingly more powerful than her. So if she is the trickster or some kind of incarnation of the trickster, and of course with the pantheon, the gods and the trickster brigade being connected as the pantheon of discord and the trickster's brigade, perhaps it's not too far of a stretch, though maybe she's just the Rani at the end of the day, or Susan. What I thought at the beginning was that this was going to be something about the dangers of AI and AI taking over and causing a robot revolution, essentially like Terminator, where humans will become obsolete and become enslaved, killed by these robots who've taken over. And I was quite disappointed, but also in a way shocked to see that this wasn't what the story was about, or trying to be about. Because, of course, and we're going to skip to the end here, because why not? The whole crux of the story is that Alan, who is Belinda's ex-boyfriend and who bought her this star, which of course in real terms means absolutely nothing. That star isn't really named after you, it's just dedicated to you by some company who's decided it. But he's taken over this world because of the time paradox, and he's now essentially abusing the people there and wants to be with Belinda forever and control her as a coercive boyfriend. And that's the suggestion, is that the reason that she broke up with him and he was really terrible was because he was a coercive boyfriend and an overall awful person. And then she says Planet of the Incels, because he is an incel. If the whole story was based on this, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think it's a great message to put out there that this isn't right. But for some reason, Russell decided not to expand on this and just throw it in at the end. I don't get it. I really don't understand why it was just thrown in there. It came out of left field. It does feel like it came out of nowhere. It was like an afterthought to make the story a bit deeper, but it ended up just being like a crap Black Mirror. I get trying to subvert expectations, because the expectation was, of course, that this would be about the dangers of AI, and no, actually, it's about the dangers of something that's closer to home, the dangers of people and abusive partners and coercive partners and, of course, incels. But you didn't set that up. There wasn't anything in the cold open where is the only part that Alan appears until the end of the story when it's revealed that he is the AI, or AL, so Al. Yet you didn't actually put anything in there to set that up. He doesn't appear. And even in the beginning bit, yeah, he seems like an awkward guy with the I'm gonna kiss you now, with just being an awkward fella, but that's not showing him as an incel. That doesn't suggest that he's an incel, or coercive or abusive. It just suggests that he's a pretty awkward guy. If there was something more to show that before we get to the end and then it's like, oh yeah, well this was actually what the case was, perhaps it would have worked a lot better instead of just seeming shoehorned in. Let's talk about the design of this episode. Now you can tell that quite a bit of money has been spent on this episode. Apparently in the last series, over I think $1 million, because of the Disney money, was spent per episode to make them into what they are. And I mean, it didn't really feel like $1 million was spent on Boom or say Rogue, but you know. But here you can really feel that. The CGI shots are excellent. The design of the robots, which feels very similar to in the Sarah Jane Adventures, which I can't remember what the exact name of the episode is, but it's where all the adults disappear. Well, actually no, all the people do disappear except Rani and Clyde. And then they feel very similar to those robots, which I'm sure were reused by the CBBC several times in various other series because they were such great costumes. But the robots here were extremely brilliant, and such bulky things with their retro-futuristic 50s laser guns in their hands. That it just feels like an action figure in a way. They're very action figure-y robots and definitely could be made by character options. And I have a feeling might be, because we didn't get much merch when it came to last series, much in terms of, we didn't get anything in terms of villains. But this series, if we are to get something, I have a feeling those robots will be very top of the list. Because of how just long their arms are, and you think, how are they going to shoot anything straight? And I guess they don't, because those rebels managed to survive for quite a while until Sasha 55, RIP. But there's such a great design. It's all very retro 50s futuristic. The buildings look like the robots in terms of that design. And it's just a wonderful style to see on screen. It really works well with Doctor Who. My primary complaint is it feels like the story was incredibly well paced up until we get to... Once they've finally got into the resistance base and Belinda's helping out when it comes to medical stuff, because of course she is a nurse. But then she turns back on the polish bot and decides to turn herself in so that everything gets fixed, because it's her that they want. It's not the rebels, it's just her. And if she connects with the system itself, maybe she can change it from the inside at the sacrifice of her own life. But it just felt like such a immediate switch up for her to go without any kind of suggestion, turn the bot on and say, right, well, I'm just going to sacrifice myself now. I don't know, I felt like, yes, of course she's a nurse, so in her day-to-day job she's putting others ahead of herself, but it didn't really feel like there was any kind of setup to that, any suggestion that she would end up doing that. And then afterwards it's very fast-paced, we get to Al, and it feels like it gets into the trappings of previous Doctor Who stories in, say, Series 10 or Series 8, where the limitations of the 45-minute to 55-minute format are really shown, and everything is just wrapped up in the last 10 minutes. But here it's not the last 10 minutes, because we have to spend the last 5 minutes setting up the rest of the series. The whole mystery of what the hell's going on with the 24th of May, why is the Sutex sound playing every time we try to land there, etc, etc. So everything is wrapped up in the last 15 minutes, but only in 10 of those 15 minutes. And it brings me to think maybe we do need longer Doctor Who stories. Maybe we do need to go to the full hour, an hour and a half special like The Power of the Doctor, or something like that to really extend out the stories and make sure that they get fully fleshed out, that we can build on everything that we need to for the plot and make sure everything works and makes sense. So overall, I do have to say it is an excellent story with a few minor misgivings that can be overlooked at the end of the day. But what about the rest of the series? What kind of hopes do I have for that? Massive, massive hopes. I am super excited now for the rest of the series. I wasn't too engaged with the hype, as I said earlier, with the beginning of the series, just before it came out. But now I am really ready to see what they can do with this, especially with a couple of the leaks. I've only seen one leak in terms of what one of the stories is a potential sequel to, though considering some elements that people have pointed out, that is very likely true. Not going to spoil it here just in case, but I really cannot wait to see what the rest of the series holds. And of course the next episode, Lux, or I think the Latin Lux, something like that. We'll see what that story holds with Alan coming as a cartoon. But until then, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope that you enjoyed this story. If you did, maybe leave your thoughts down in the comment section below if you think that I missed something and want to share it with me. But as always, thanks for watching.